Recently, like many people, I have become obsessed with the game Infinity Nikki. But just collecting clothes in game is not enough, I must own them all in real life too. I'm currently working on making the Bibkum Realm outfit, but it's quite a long process making the whole thing, so I decided I needed to make a smaller item in the meantime to get that dopamine from finishing a garment. So I decided to make the freshly crisp top. I'd like to mention now that whilst I'm going to share my process, this isn't a tutorial as I've only been crocheting for just over 2 months, so you should not take crochet advice from me. I decided to use some chunky yarn for the base top with an 8mm hook. I start by making a slip knot and doing a chain. I wanted my chain to be as long as needed to fully cover the bust. Once my chain is done, I will skip the first loop and then do a half double crochet into the second loop. I then do this into every loop along my chain. Once I have double crocheted into the final loop, I chain one and then turn my work. From here on out, I'm only going to work into the back loops, as this will create a ribbed effect. Very close into finishing the main top, I ran out of yarn and I had to go get another ball. Once I had got a panel the same length as my underbust, I left the piece with a super long tail as I will need this for slip stitching it together later. I then started to make a chain that I could put the green vines into, and I'm now going to say there is probably a much more efficient way to do this, but I am a crochet baby, so this is what makes sense to my mind currently. I will link a video I used when I first learned to do a mesh/net stitch with, especially as I change how I do this later, so kind of just ignore this whole section. I will say though, to get diamonds for the first row I did I think about 20 chains, and then I increased it by 5 for the next sets of rows, just so that there was a more pronounced diamond shape in the net. I found that doing that slight increase helped to make the shape a little bit better rather than doing 20, 20, 20 for each row. One thing I did do with the vines, even when I changed it later on, is I switched down to a smaller hook size than what I'd been using with the white. I think I was using a 6mm or 5.5mm. Once I finished making the vine net, I stitched that white chain stitch I'd done before down onto the bottom edge of the main top, and I just did what would be a blanket stitch if you were sewing. I don't know if it has a different name when you use it for crocheting. So I came back to my piece the next day and I decided I hated how the vines looked. I thought they were too skinny, so I frocked it completely. I kept it sewn to the top, but then I redid it holding 2 strands of yarn together to get a thicker vine. And I'm just doing the same net technique that I was doing before. So the top has lace on the bottom and the top edge, and I didn't really have anything close to what it looks like in game, so I kind of made some Franken lace. I then needed to make all of the little flowers that would go on the top, and I hadn't made a crocheted flower before, so I watched a bunch of tutorials but was finding that all the tutorials I watched, the flowers would turn out too big. So I experimented with different stitches until I found a result I was personally happy with, but I'll link some videos to a couple of flower tutorials I watched. I think if you were a bit more experienced with crochet than I am currently, I think making those puff flowers would actually look a lot cuter. I then sewed each flower onto the top. I used a ballpoint embroidery needle as I find it interacts with the yarn much nicer than just a standard sewing or embroidery needle. Once all the lace and flowers were on, I made the top into one piece by slip stitching it together using that extra long tail of yarn that I'd left on earlier, and then I basically use that as my working thread to do the slip stitch with. And once the slip stitch was done, I was finished with the top. I'm honestly super happy with the results. I hope this was fun to watch, and maybe you will be inspired to crochet your own Nikki piece. I'm definitely planning to make more garments from the game. As I said, I'm currently working on the Bivcoom Realm outfit, but I think I will be trying to sew a garment each week from the game. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.